right. Well, thank you guys for being here on another episode of the Consistency Corner podcast. I am really excited to get into today's conversation. We are blessed enough to have the founder of Flick Social on the podcast, Loic Alix-Brown, to talk with us about AI tools and the scheduling platform Flick, which for me in my business has been quite a game changer. And, I actually had an opportunity to work with the Flick research and development team and talk with them about kind of content planning, content scheduling, and what my process looks like and how I serve my clients and how I teach other business owners to plan and create their content. And it was like, oh my gosh, this company is doing so many innovative and amazing things to help small business owners who are wearing all the hats, that I said to their researcher, Tommy, I was like, is there anybody from your team that could do a podcast interview? And Loic was kind enough to say, as the founder, he'd love to come on and share with us. So I'm really excited to get in and talk about this platform today and just ways that we as small business owners can use tech tools and AI advancements without getting overwhelmed with having to learn a new thing. Because the whole point of these tools is to make our lives easier. So Loic, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey and how Flick got started?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So, really, Flick started around 5.5 years ago as a side project. Our founders and I were sort of running an agency, and one of our clients needed some help with some hashtags. And over the weekend, one of our founders developed a very, very basic prototype to help them. And when I looked at it, it was clear to me that a lot more people could use that. So we turned that into a product. And a few months later, we had our first 200 paying users, and it really went from there. So we really just started off as a hashtag tool. Obviously, today, Flick is a lot more than that. And now, as we transition into the era of AI, we hope to be able to bring that to social as much as possible, and really in trying to help, in particular, small business owners, because, as you said, it's very difficult as a business owner to try and focus on the business as well as marketing the business, especially if you have a very small team, and it's impossible to be an expert in everything. So we're trying to take all the heavy lifting off of the social media off of the business owners, and help them as much as possible. So that's really where the focus is at the moment.
Yeah, like you said, it's hard to be an expert in all the things. And if you have tools that can help you save time, they can help you with research, they can help you with optimization, it can make such a difference. And I love that you said that Flick started out as a hashtag tool, which is exactly how I first discovered it. I will shout out Anya Berry from Ask Anya Media, who is a great social media manager. She was on the podcast several years ago. I mean, one of my early guests, and said, I love Flick for hashtags. It's my go-to tool. And that's how I found out about it. But as you guys have evolved, into a scheduling platform and now a lot of AI functionality, you're solving problems that I'm sure your customers are telling you that they have. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you kind of keep your pulse on what small business owners need? Because you've done a great job of streamlining it and putting those tools together, but obviously there's hundreds of problems you could solve.
Definitely. No, absolutely. I think the first thing that we ask ourselves is with the tech that's now available, especially in the AI space over the last 6 months, a lot more problems can now be solved for small business owners, or more easily anyway, by more businesses. And as you said, it's about what problems can we solve, and really, to start with, we started by speaking to as many business owners as we could, as many Flick users as we could, and tried to understand where the most time was spent, and really where not only the most time was spent, but also where people were struggling the most with social media. And that, from what we've heard, was sort of very much consistency, especially for small business owners. It's so hard when you're not an expert in something to continuously pump out content and to prioritize it over the other tasks that you need to do to run your business and just keep your business operating. And really, that's where our core focus was, and still is, for the last 8 months or so, is how can we save time so that we can make people more consistent on social media.
Yeah.
And under that, there's obviously a variety of sub problems, such as ideation, copywriting, producing the content itself, that really we're looking to tackle at the moment, as a first step. So our goal in the future is really to be able to almost run someone's social for them. So you could imagine, obviously, we're never going to replace a full-time social media manager. There's a lot of human aspects to social that are just not replaceable by AI. But for small businesses who can't afford a social media manager and can't possibly find the time to be consistent, you can get you can get close in certain aspects, and our goal is to essentially get to a point where small business owners can come onto Flick, press play, with one of the strategies that we've designed there, and then interact with the platform once a week, maybe a couple times a month, and consistently get a stream of well thought through content, fully produced, for their socials, that they can approve or disapprove of, and work from that. So that's where we're going towards. But at the moment, it's very much we're just building the tools and the pillars, the raw pillars at the bottom, to be able to help people be more consistent, and manage their social media in a shorter amount of time, essentially.
Yeah. And, as somebody who is a social media manager or a marketing strategist, you're right. You can't fully replace the human effort. And if you're a business owner that's not quite ready to outsource to a full-time social media manager, it's great to have tools like this to help you. But even if you are ready to outsource to a social media manager or marketing agency that is using these tools, because quite honestly, that allows that creative person to be more strategic, more innovative, get you even more content with the work that they're already doing. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on is the opportunity to repurpose long form content. And I love that that's a feature that Flick has today, that you can put in a blog post and get social content ideas. And I think that's so important to understand. And this, we talk about this a lot on the podcast, that social media is not a marketing strategy. It's a piece of the puzzle. But how do we make it fit with all of the other pieces? So why was it important for you to kind of make those integrations so that you could make social a piece of the puzzle versus the whole puzzle?
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely. So I think going back to what we've really been trying to drive forward over the past 8 months, which is consistency on social. Part of the reason that's difficult is you've got so many other things to do, but there's also, as you said, all the other marketing things that need to happen for your business. So really, the key to repurposing, and the reason why was one of the first features we implemented, was to allow people to get the most out of the work they are doing in marketing, and be able to spread that work across multiple channels. And right now we only support blog content, but the idea is to bring this towards repurposing your existing social media content, repurposing your videos, and any form of content, being able to turn that into social media. Because really, the time you should be spending on social is really engaging with your community and engaging with your audience. Whereas right now, the most time that's spent on social from small business owners is creating the content, creating the strategy. And that's not supposed to be your strong point. Your strong point is running your business and engaging with your community and building community around your business. So repurposing is just one of the tools that allows you to start to shift that time back towards where it should be, when you are working on social.
Yeah. One of the questions I get a lot from business owners, and I think this is like an old rumor that like won't die in the age of the internet, is that scheduling platforms hurt you with the algorithm. So I would love to hear from an expert in the space. Yeah. Is that false?
Yeah, no, it's definitely false. Yeah, to be able to schedule your content to Instagram and Facebook and really any platform, we need to submit our app for approval to those platforms. So a human goes through your app, checks it all out, and then says, yes, you can now use our API to schedule content on behalf of your users. So it is really regulated. And as such, it just doesn't make sense for there to be any disadvantage. The platforms I would be careful of are the ones that ask for your password, because if they're doing that, they're not going through the official channels. And so there you might be at risk, but really 95% of the platforms out there do it the right way. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. For those of you who might notice a difference in terms of the engagement, typically what does happen is when people do start to schedule, they won't be on the platform as much naturally. At the times they post, they won't engage as much with their audience because it's automated. And so obviously, naturally, the engagement goes down because it's not just about posting. It's about, as I said, as a small business owner, really, you want to be engaging with your community. So as long as you don't slack on that, once you start automating the posting, then you won't have any problems.
Yeah. So using multiple pieces of the social platform. So it's about posting, but it's also about having conversations with other people, using the DMs, posting to your stories, posting different types of content, whether it's posts or reels. I'm going to ask you another kind of social media manager insider question that I know we are all dying to know. Will we ever be able to schedule reels with trending
Sounds.
audio?
Yeah. Hopefully one day. I know that pretty much every social media platform is hoping that happens. Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's out of our hands at the moment. We currently just can't do it. But hopefully one day that will be the case. There's been like a few improvements that have been made over the course of this year. One of them is you can now name. So if you've got an audio, you can, say you upload a reel to Flick and you want to schedule it, and you've got an audio on it, you can name the audio and that name will appear when you post, but you still can't find an existing trending audio and attach it to your post. But hopefully one day, fingers crossed.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the one thing to think about is when you're thinking about your content, original audio is going to stand out. Like, yes, we know that the
Of course.
algorithm can favor trending audio and it can help give you a boost there. But I think this is something that we're even seeing in the AI space, is that when we use trending audio or we use AI without the right amount of brand direction, the content starts to become vanilla and then it starts to blend in. So, any tips that you have for using the tools so that your content doesn't sound like everybody else's or sound like a
Yeah.
robot created it?
Yeah, no, definitely. So really from the a really easy analogy is if you were to hire an assistant or social media manager or anything like that, or any person managing your socials other than you, you would have a period of time where you would tell them, this is my brand, this is how I write, these are the topics I cover, as well as a variety of other things. It might be these other colors I use, for example, or things like that. And you would go back and forth and train them until they nail it. And that's really hard for a human to do. So it's not straightforward for AI, but what you can do is very similar. You can train the AI to write very, very closely to how you would write, and you can do that in different ways. On Flick, we've got a feature called brand info, and essentially that allows you to input your website or your social, and our AI will go and investigate your website or investigate your social or both. Pull out information about your brand. So what is it you do? Who your target audience is, as well as how you typically write, the type of vocabulary you use, the language you use, and those sorts of things. And then whenever we output an AI caption for you, that will all be put into the context for the AI, and it will sound closer to how you would sound. If you wanted to do it without Flick, a very straightforward way that will yield really good results, and we're starting to do this in areas of Flick as well now, is if you're really happy with a particular caption that you wrote. So let's say you had a offer that say you were hairdressers and you had an offer 20% off, and you wrote this really nice copy. You spent maybe you spent 3 hours, 4 hours, probably not, hopefully not, on writing the caption. And you've got another, announcement or discount coming up in 2 or 3 weeks. You don't want to copy paste the caption. What you can do is give the original caption to ChatGPT and then tell it to adapt that caption for this new announcement. And if you get the prompt right, you can keep the structure, you can keep the tone it used, you can keep the quirkiness of it, but it will be completely readapted to your new topic. And on Flick, last week we've released a new feature called Remix, where you can do that with any of the old posts on your Instagram account. So if you go into the analytics on Flick, you can find the post, for example, that performed really well, click Remix, and it will either rewrite the post just about the same topic, but just rewrite it if you wanted to repost it with a different caption, or you can specify a new topic you want the post to be about, and it will take the caption from the original post, rework it to work for the new topic, but it will sound exactly like you. So that's just another way you could save time on social and try and cut the content creation time down as much as possible.
Yeah, because I know we talked in the beginning a little bit about consistency, and consistently putting content out there is how we eventually get the results. But it feels like sometimes for business owners, it's like, oh my God, I have said the same thing 87 times. How many more different ways can I say it? But that's the point. We have to say it 87 different times, and we want to say it slightly different each time so that we're keeping our audience's attention and test new things. But then when something works, repeat, rinse and repeat, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And also keep in mind, especially with the new algorithm, there's only a small percentage of your followers that are going to see your posts. So, really, hopefully you're reaching new people every time. So even if it's the same message, slightly reworked, it really doesn't matter at all. And your followers that do follow you, they follow you because they trust in your message and they like the message you're portraying. So if that's the case and they follow you because of it, you shouldn't be scared of posting more of that. I'm not saying spam them with discounts and offers, but in terms of your core message and your core pillars that you talk about, it's absolutely fine to rework them in slightly different ways.
Yeah. Well, that's actually one thing, you're talking about your core message and your core pillars and then promotional offers too. And thinking about from a planning perspective, content that attracts, nurtures, and converts. And so when I'm thinking about like working with an AI tool, you could tell this tool, hey, I want to talk about such and such. Please have a call to action be a call to engage. Or please have the call to action be to share with a friend, in order to get new eyes on the content. And those are the things that like you as the business owner or you as the social media strategist have to be thinking about. Because you're inputting prompts to a tool, it can help you, but the overarching strategy, it's not going to be able to do for you because it doesn't know your campaign calendar and your launch calendar and all those things that you have to know as a business owner. But we've got to start somewhere. We've got to get it out of our head and on paper or onto the screen to be able to keep going. Can you talk to me a little bit more about those brand creation tools and the scheduling and how Flick is helping business owners like get that stuff out of their head and on the calendar so that it's not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and throwing up a post?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think when it comes to this sort of stuff, we at Flick talk about starting points, and you could be at different as a business owner, depending on your inspiration levels, depending on the time. If it's the start of the month and you know what's upcoming in the next couple of weeks, or maybe the end of the month and you haven't planned the next few weeks, then you might be at different starting points. So you could be at a point where you have absolutely no idea what you're going to talk about, and at that point you still have the main topics right around your business, but you don't really know what you're going to do past that. You could be at a point where you've got a really specific idea, but you just haven't sort of created the content for it. Or you could have already created the content and now it's just a question of getting it scheduled or refined. And based on where you're at, there's different sets of tools that you can use. If you have absolutely no idea yet, or you don't have a specific idea, on what you want to post, then we have a bunch of what we call brainstorming tools. So what you can do is you can enter a really broad topic into Flick. So you might say I'm an indoor plant shop. I might say educational tips about indoor plants, right? So I know that I post educational content and I'm an indoor plant shop, and that's really all I need at this point. And Flick will give you a bunch of angles for you to create content on that topic, and it will just output those ideas, which you can store. And then now you're at a point where, if we follow this flow, you're now at the point where you've got a specific idea, right? Flick's given you it, but of course it could also spark ideas in your own mind outside of the ones we suggest, and you now want to turn that into a post. And what you can do is you can use our caption assistant. The caption assistant takes into account your brand. It takes into account, it has other sort of parameters such as tone of voice, POV, and things like that. But anyway, you enter your idea in, and it doesn't need to be this sophisticated GPT prompt, because we've done all of that in our backend. It can just be a description of what your idea is, like you were describing it to a friend, and your caption will be outputted based on all the information you've provided. We've actually also recently added extra level of sophistication to make sure the output is of a higher quality, where we analyze your input, we decide what writing frameworks should be used for particular inputs. So, for example, if your idea was a list of 5 plants or the 5 dangerous plants you want to keep away from dogs, the AI would understand that actually what you want is a listicle type of post. So it'll have an intro with a hook, and then it'll have the list where you'll have the 5 bullet points for the plants, and then an outro conclusion structure. And we have around 30 or 40 different writing styles we use. So now you've got your caption, and all you need now is the visual content. So we help you there, not as much as I'd like at this point, but we do help you. You can either use we integrate with stock imagery, and what we'll do there is we'll analyze the caption, and we'll go and search the stock imagery database for you. So we'll instantly return the most relevant images, so you don't need to search that yourself. Or we have AI imagery generation as well, where we'll analyze the caption, we'll then prompt a mid-journey alternative, and then get some AI out there. This is really the space where we're trying to do as much as we can at the moment. We're looking to build a graphic AI graphic generator, so Canva style sort of graphics, and we'll be able to generate through AI. Product images is also something we're looking to do. And then if you're the type of business that really can only post photography, so typically, hair salons and stuff like that, you can't really post pictures, or nail salons, you can't really post pictures of other people's work for your own on your own IG. So at that point, we'll integrate with your image libraries, analyze those images, and tell you based on the caption which ones might work best. So now you've got your post, and then at this point, it's really easy. All you need to do is you schedule it for when you want, and you can go through that whole flow. We say 0 to 1 within the platform. And the idea is just to work on that internally as a team. We're working on that flow to make it as easier and easier as possible for business owners.
Yeah. Well, those are all such exciting innovations that are coming down the pipeline. And as somebody who creates a lot of content, I appreciate the work that y'all are putting in to understand that workflow. And, even from a batching perspective, and I think this is a question I get from creators a lot, if they're first starting to batch content. It's like, oh my gosh, it takes me 100 years to create one post. How in the world do you want me to create an entire month's worth of posts? But the batching, the content ideation, we're coming up with 10 ideas at once. Then we're creating captions for those 10 ideas at once. And so that whole workflow becomes that much easier, right?
No, absolutely. It goes back to, industrial revolution, right? Where you've got those factories and you've got people at each stage of the factory just doing the same job over and over all day. And that's because it tends to be more efficient. And it's the same here, right? You're going to do everything you need to do in ideation, and then you're going to do everything you need to do in caption writing, and then you can go into the visuals, and it makes it a lot easier to do. And we've seen people schedule out a month's worth of content from scratch, just from no idea to fully scheduled in about a couple of hours. Once they get used to how to use the tools and get a little bit more familiar with the AI in Flick. But it's totally possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Well, okay, so before we wrap up, and I've got a couple get to know you questions that I want to ask. We ask all our guests, but before we get to that, I have one question for you. As a founder of a company that is scaling really quickly, outside of social media, I would love to know what is working for Flick in terms of your marketing strategy, and where are you spending your time and energy when it comes to marketing for Flick?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I'll start by caveating by saying I think word of mouth has been our biggest driver of growth, and obviously a lot of that is on social media. So whether that be just our users or influencers who use the product and love it, or partnerships that we have with influencers, that's definitely been the biggest driver. But other than that, really SEO. We have a lot of different projects in the SEO space. Trying to target particular keywords, and as you said, at different levels of intent. So attracting huge amounts of traffic on certain keywords, nurturing on others, and then trying to convert on the last set. So that's really where we're seeing a lot of growth, and within that, obviously partnering with blogs and listicle type listicle blog posts that mention us as well. Yeah.
So as a founder, I mean, I know a lot of our listeners are very small teams or maybe even a one-man show. And as a founder or CEO, they're wearing the marketing hat as well. As the CEO and founder today, how much time do you think you spend on marketing, even though you've even got a team to support you with that?
I'd say I spend maybe not executing on the marketing itself, but in terms of thinking on the marketing, or in some form of marketing, whether it's to acquire new users or market our existing products or our new products to existing users. I would say probably half a day a week. I'd say I definitely think about that. And in terms of to external users, really it's just rethinking our go-to-market strategy. The products changed so much over the last couple of years, and people still refer to us as a hashtag tool predominantly. So really, that's where my head is trying to shift the brand in people's minds from just a hashtag tool to more than that, to an AI social media helper assistant. It's almost painful. I mean, it's great that people speak about Flick, but it's almost painful when someone does mention us and then refers to us as a hashtag tool still.
Yeah,
but we're working on it.
I can imagine. And from a brand perspective, I mean, that's just something that I think all business owners need to understand, that the market and any marketing strategies, they take time and they take consistency. And you were probably really consistent in pitching and positioning Flick as a hashtag tool. And so now that same amount of effort has to go into the rebrand, the reposition, the evolution, because our brands, just like people, do evolve over time, but our audience maybe doesn't catch up as fast as we want them
to. Absolutely. It's been 18 months in the making, but we're getting there. The proportion is shifting more and more towards the direction we want it to go. So it takes time though.
That's awesome. All right, Loic. Well, I've got 3 kind of wrap-up questions to get to know you a little bit better. And one thing we talk a lot about on the Consistency Corner is brand values. So I would love to know, what is one of Flick's brand values, and how did you land on that?
I think for us, being in the tech space, you can innovate very quickly, and there's a lot of different directions you can have, and there's a lot of different opinions on where you should go. So for us, we have a saying which is strong opinions held loosely. So it's really important that everyone in our team has a strong opinion, because if you don't have a strong opinion, in some way, shape, or form, it means that you haven't really considered what you're doing or the task at hand. So everyone, we always encourage people to have strong opinions and to express them. But also, it's important to not hold that so personally that you're not open to other people's opinions, and you're able to see the benefit in other people's thoughts, and why, and be open to being wrong in your own opinion, and changing your mind. So that's something that we hold very dearly, and try to uphold as much as possible.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we talk a lot about on this podcast personal development, as growth mindset and personal development are definitely one of my brand values. And, I love strong opinions held loosely. And obviously, communication, probably within your team, is something that has to be worked on quite a bit. But I'd love to know what's a favorite either personal development book or podcast that has really helped you in your entrepreneurial journey.
I think the Lean Startup by Eric Ries, I think, was one of the first books I read around sort of product development or product management. To give you a bit of context, when we started this, I was still at university. I hadn't graduated. I graduated a year later. I was an electronic engineer. I've never done product management in my life. So I very quickly had to learn about that role, and what typically leads to successful product and what you need to do. Really had no clue where to start, and that was a great starting point to educate myself around that.
It's so true. Like, I hear from business owners all the time, like, well, I didn't go to school for such and such. Okay, get a book. It's time to learn. Like, we got to keep learning and keep going.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, then, because my last question, because we are the consistency corner and we talk so much about consistency here, I'd love to know something that you are really consistent with, either in your business or even your personal life, that you are really proud of.
Yeah, I'm typically quite consistent when it comes to sport. I do have football or soccer, and boxing multiple times a week, and I've been doing that, or football, since I was very young, but boxing for the last 2 years, and I haven't really missed a week. So that's been really good. It's my way of letting loose and de-stressing and clearing my mind when I have a busy week. So,
yeah, and I know as a business owner, it's so easy to stay connected to the business and stuck in it. But then that's where the burnout happens, and that's where the lack of creativity happens. So I love that you've been consistent with being able to unplug and do something to disconnect and stay on top of that. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, Loic, again, thank you so much for being here. If our listeners are interested in learning more, I mean, obviously Flick, but where can they find you? Where can they learn more about the platform?
I think LinkedIn is great. I'm not really active on social, which is quite a paradox. But I work on it all day, every day. So that's enough. That's enough for me. But Flick is very active on social. So I think Flick on social media, or our website, which is flick.social. And if you want to reach out personally to me, you can email me at Loic, Loic, at flick.tech, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. There's not many people with my name, so you'll find me if you search Loic, and then Alix-Brown, Alix-Brown.
Awesome. And we will link everything in the show notes. And again, thank you so much for being here. This was a really fun conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ruthie.